Is he smoking? What's going on? How we
All is
doing?
well, all is well.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Are we live? Yeah, we are live. This is the Three Buddy Problem. We're up to episode 110. Episode 110 on August 21st. On a warm days all over the world. 22. How are you, buddy? We were able to announce the LabsCon speaker list this week.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm excited I'm glad we can finally start talking about this, right? Like there's so many surprises and like really cool talks in there. I mean, for the things that we've even published, right? Like there's a bunch of TLP talks that aren't, are, not at liberty to put forth just yet. But just the headline, the keynotes, having Dino, having Katie come to give proper talks, having James Mickens, man, who you like. I need to take a minute to gush about my man Ryan here, who we have wanted. I don't know if you guys know Professor James Mickens from Harvard, but he's an amazing speaker, and it's somebody who we have talked about inadvertently in this podcast many times because he is the author of that
Mossad
or not Mossad paper that I think has had really good and really bad effects in security for a variety of reasons. But he's just a phenomenal speaker. And we've been trying to get him to be a speaker at SAS or to be a speaker at LabsCon for maybe like 8 years or something like
easily.
that. Yeah, almost a decade. So I don't know what you did, but Ryan finally caught this man's attention, and and we're not even selling like Christian Trebert coming back from the visual investigations team, and it just
I think that's
I'm
be
very
a cool
excited
thing.
for this.
Yeah, I'm super fanboying over having Professor Mickens there. I have never seen him speak in person. I've seen a couple of YouTube videos. I think there was like a famous talk he did at a Usenix conference that was just like one of the best I'd seen. And I'm super excited about that one. But I think you're underselling. Christian Trebert is... he works on that New York Times visual investigations teams that does Bellingcat style investigations into a variety of things in war zones. They were tracking the Syrian guy through Syria to see where they had escaped and hiding in Russia. Just amazing visual investigation work using map technology and so on. He's coming to do one of those talks. Dino is going to be a keynoter.
He's a return best speaker. He won #1 best speaker, I think the first year of LabsCon, first or second.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, LabsCon speakers are announced.
We're so excited about those. We're not talking about Mauro Vignati coming back. We're not talking about Mark Spencer coming back. Like, sorry, there's just, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we can nod out on LabsCon. Yeah.
Mark
LabsCon.io.
Marty, Julian Ferdinand, Vergele, and Teal Puret. Who is Teal Puret?
You got to be there to be there. It's on-site only. So there's a handful of on-site only things that are usually like the standout things. You got to be at LabsCon or you just miss it.
Are coming with Corona and Dark Sword stuff.
And Dark Sword stuff, yeah. So yeah, we can nerd out about LabsCon forever. LabsCon.io/speakers. We have everything posted there. Costin, you're on the program
Don't even push people. Don't even push people,
right.
Ryan.
I don't even want to make the second
basically
announcement yet.
Just say it, man. Like we're basically
sold out. Yeah.
5th year, sold out. Every single year was sold out. I'm very proud of that. But it's also easy to take for granted because, frankly, first year we had to fight and like push and remind people and scramble. Second year a bit, but the past 2-3 years, like I'm so happy to say, like the community that we had built around this thing, people just it just sold itself. So I'm very grateful for that.
Do we still have the recovery day?
Of course, we have the rest and recovery day. That's the most important day.
Remember, don't miss the recovery day. That's when the best talks happen.
That's how you fuck up.
Absolutely. Costin, you served on the program committee. I want to personally thank you again for like reading through all of those, voting on those abstracts and helping us get to here.
Like 100
you
abstracts?
Like the agenda? You like the agenda you saw?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it very well reflects some of the choices that we made through the program committee. Good. So I'm glad to see some of the talks that I personally was hoping they will get into the conference. The only sad part is that I can't make it this year. And then you
I don't
guys
want to
keep
talk about
insisting
that
it's the
right now.
last edition. So the only hope
You
here
missed
would
all
be
of
that
it. It'll be a
moment
dark
in
spot in
time.
your life.
you
It'll be a
can
dark,
maybe
dark,
still
dark period of
have
your life.
the cardboard Costin somewhere there.
I need someone in the administration to go fly a private jet to Romania and bring this man.
Or a
Absolutely.
balloon, or a UFO. Like I'll settle for a triangle
Chinese weather
anytime.
balloon.
Bring
Why
the
don't we get you to
TR3B
China, put you
Astra.
on a weather balloon, and get you to fly about.
TR3B
TR3B
Astra.
Astra, please. Or if you have
We'll
the
drop
TR5,
everything.
I'm okay with that as well. Or
You're gonna
TR7,
end
no
up in
problem.
China or something, man.
Costin, while I have you here, we're talking about this stuff. There's been like a lot of news reports of like drones incursions into Romanian towns. Just this week again, I saw there was like some drone-related explosion in some part of Romania. Like, can you help me understand like what's going on? Just sum it up for the audience about what's going on with these drone incursions.
Well, for like a month or 2 months, we've been having all these drone incidents in which, if you remember, one of the issues a couple of months ago was that the Romanian fighter jet pilots didn't have the approval to shut down the drones. Romania didn't have a law that allowed them to shut down drones. Can you imagine? So drones were like flying happily through the Romanian airspace, and they were not allowed to shoot them down because there's like no legal basis for that. So finally the parliament passed the law, and now they can shoot them down. And maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, they shut down the first drone, which was like a great national success.
You guys looked into what other weapons you're not allowed to defend yourselves from? Like, is this might be like a huge area of concern? Sorry, thoughts and prayers. Keep going.
Thank you. No comment. But like finally they can shoot them down, and they shot. There was an incident in which a drone flew in. But by the way, Romania has kind of a joint mission here where Spanish, Italian pilots are allowed to also shoot down drones in Romanian airspace, and we have military bases, NATO military bases, from where these Italian, Polish, Spanish pilots operate, and they tried to shoot them down, like they failed. And a Romanian jet fighter pilot managed to shut one of the drones down, then he shot another one the next day, and they've been shooting down like this kind of Shahid style drones. Geran is a Russian designation for them. They were able to find the remains, the fragments from the blown up drones, and they presented them to the Russian ambassador. The Russian ambassador denied that they would be Russian. So the situation is a bit murky, like who is flying all these drones? I don't think it's random, first of all. This must be some kind of a coordinated operation to test our defenses, or even just to waste missiles, because they're shooting them down with missiles. Sidewinder missiles, which are like very expensive. So we have maybe 16 of them, and they already maybe used 4. So we have maybe a few left. And maybe someone is just trying to exhaust our supply of Sidewinder missiles. And the worst of all, in my opinion, was this one, which happened this week, when they spotted a naval drone carrying live explosive approaching our Neptun Deep platform. This is an offshore gas platform in the Black Sea. A huge investment, like billions of dollars, went into Neptun Deep. And it's one of the most promising oil and gas fields in the Black Sea, which makes Romania suddenly a rich country, kind of rich in the region. So we are like very proud of this Neptun Deep project. It's actually, it's advertised. It's advertised on TV. It's advertised in the airport. There's like big advertisements for people to get a job and work there. As a spoiler, my wife's father actually worked on one of these offshore gas platforms. It's a very hard job. Like this is serious, tough job. And you always risk death by maybe falling from the platform, and you fall like 50 meters into the sea. And if you don't know how to fall, you'll die on the impact with the sea. Or if you survive that, the sharks will eat you alive. Oh, it's a tough job, very tough job. And the fact they shot down this drone approaching our $1 billion gem in the Black Sea in my opinion, is the most worrying of all the incidents so far. Again,
Is
they
this
don't
big
know.
news in Bucharest, or is this stuff
Oh yeah,
happening off in the boonies that nobody really pay attention
oh,
to?
it's all over the TV. Even like the leaders, European Union leaders, Ursula von der Leyen also wrote a message, the typical one, where
Expressing deep
he
concern.
expresses deep concerns, but they were like deeper concerns about the Neptun Deep platform drone attack than the previous deep concerns. So this time it was
Very
much
deep
deeper,
concerns.
deeper, and. I would say yeah. This time it was serious. Luckily, no one was hurt. But again, the question is who is sending all these drones? If you remember,
Juanito,
there was just this is the only thing I'm gonna mention. There were a bunch of unexploded Ukrainian drones that they found in Constanza, which eventually exploded because they're pre-programmed to explode if they lose connection with base. And there were discussions of the Russian interference, like satellite operations to disrupt targeted disruption of the GPS navigation of these drones to make them end up in Constanza instead of Crimea or somewhere else, which is a very, very interesting thing. And yeah, there's a lot of research papers about these Russian military satellites that can perform targeted GPS disruption. They have actually constellation of satellites, military satellites that are launched and running for this purpose. So very interesting attacks from this point of view, and also very worrying, tragic things happening.
and Romania is a NATO country. How does this affect all the talk about invoking Article 5? An attack against one is an attack on all. These drones are in your airspace. There's evidence here. Is this just kind of like someone poking the bear, seeing how far they can go? What do you guys think is happening?
I would say that the Article 5 is kind of deterrence, similar to nuclear deterrence. So it's something that you have there, but maybe you don't want to use it, but you can, of course, boast about having it. Like we can, of course, we have nuclear weapons, but it's a deterrence. We're never going to use them. And I think the Article 5 somehow sounds similar. It's something you have, but hopefully you'll never have to use Article 5. And I think also maybe the war in Ukraine is spilling over and Russia is probing to see if there's like weaker targets in the region. I don't know, just to destabilize. Of course, when, just to give you an example, when the drones were flying into Romania and we weren't shutting them down, everyone was complaining, why aren't you shutting down the drones? Now that we are shutting them down, they are complaining like, why are you shutting them down, like shooting them down? Because it's like very expensive to shoot down a drone. So like, why are you wasting our 16 Sidewinder missiles on this what is it, $30,000 Geran drone when our missile costs $1 million? So we will not be able to maintain this kind of
The
a game
economics don't
forever.
work at all, yeah.
Yeah.
Oi, I don't know what to say, bro. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Keep
Thank
us
you.
updated on what's going on. I mean, this stuff fascinates me. The whole drone warfare and the future of drone warfare and robotry and all this stuff fascinates me. But
Somehow it feels to me that the drones. You remember our episode with Miko? Those air drones are one thing, but I think these water-based drones, naval drones, they have much bigger potential because they're probably harder to detect. They can stop. Like it's more difficult for a flying drone to pause somewhere and just stay hidden. But a naval
these
drone
things are
can just
submarine-like,
pause.
right? Yeah.
Somewhere like almost look like a small boat, like a commercial boat, like a small one that you can rent. Anyone can rent. Some of them look like that, and they can carry huge amounts, hundreds of kilograms of explosives. So they can even carry other drones that can fly off the naval drone and attack targets like the Neptun Deep platform. So they're a lot more risky, in my opinion.
You're seeing the if you mentioned the Mikko Hipponen episode, and one of the things that we started to discuss at that point was matters of like ROI, like return on investment for these different sorts of tools. And you mentioned it right with the drones having to be shot down, right? Like you're spending X amount of money, like 2 orders of magnitude more money on the thing to shoot down the drone than the drone itself. I don't think we really understand to what extent like warfare is being changed and rewritten at this point, in ways that like I don't mean like it sounds naive, right? But like when they say that like wars are not going to be fought the same way anymore, like we think of that as like, oh, you're just a bunch of robots shooting each other, but that's fucking stupid, right? Like why would you bother doing that? Instead, what we need to talk about is, I mean, warfare being just a corollary and sidestep from the security industry, obviously. The ROI changes, I think, right now are the potential to destabilize is so vast. These are things that we don't like to talk about at all. But I mean, think about what would have happened if that billion-dollar platform had been in any way seriously damaged, right? It's an oil platform, right? So even a small amount of damage is pretty problematic. But more so if you consider that operation would have cost them what? $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, whatever it cost them is an outsized win in comparison. And most of the things that we're talking about right now are subject to that. If we talk about the safety of airplanes, the safety of submarines, the safety of docks, the safety of like shipping pipelines and so on, like how problematic are mines? There, unexploded ordinances from like World War II were a problem for a long fucking time, right? Like we haven't solved submarine warfare in any way. You tell me now there's like autonomous little bullshit robots, like a $5,000 bullshit robot sitting around waiting outside of like a dockyard to just like fuck with supply lines. It's insane. Like I think I'm just sorry. I feel like I'm having a little bit of a conniption just thinking through this, what it's supposed to look like going forward.
Yeah. Speaking of robots and closer to home, we have OpenAI announced this week with a Sam Altman blog post that they were going to slow down the frontier development over the cybercritical capabilities. The idea is they're going to temporarily slow. Let me read from Sam Altman's blog. As models become more capable, the risks associated with developing and testing them internally also grow. Our standards for monitoring alignment and security must stay ahead of those risks, and we wanted to take the necessary time to meet those standards. So we temporarily slowed the pace of scaling. I want to start there. Juanito, what does the pace of scaling mean in this context?
I think that you have to think about training runs almost as if we were talking about growing something organically, right? Like a human child takes 9 months to gestate or whatever. A model can be sort of similarly described in a sense, insofar as like it does, there's a schedule and there's a size of a run, and you're going to dedicate X amount of compute to this problem for X amount of months. So to actually slow something down or even stop any of that, it's a meaningful thing that you can't necessarily compensate for right away. Like there is a cost being incurred here that is not small by frontier lab standards.
Yeah, when we had Dave Vitale on the show, he was talking about these learning training runs cost millions and millions of dollars, and anything that affect. He was like justifying aardvark and the kind of bugs aardvark was finding early at the time. What Sam Altman announced here is that there's going to be a 2-week pause in reinforcement learning training on our latest models intended for deployment. And here's where it connects back to the Hugging Face and the other incidents. He says this is being done while we further harden and red team our research environments and expand the coverage of our monitoring systems. A lot of people are applauding OpenAI for slow down, get your monitoring and systems in place so we don't have a repeat to that. Why wasn't this done in the first place? Do they, in your mind, Costin, deserve your applause for doing this and slowing things down? Or you're just well, duh, you should have done this in the first place?
No, look, I'm happy to see it. I'm one of the people who are happy to see this. And if Sam Altman says that they need to slow down the pace, I believe him, and probably he's right. I'm sure that he has the worldview on to what's happening inside OpenAI, and he understands that things need to slow down a bit, or it will be very easy to lose control over everything. Remember, this was what we were saying in the last episode, that it feels that this is out of control. It feels that there's no one at the handle. It feels like this is just running off a cliff and there's no one to hit the brake. At least that's the opinion from the outside. And now possibly we know that this may have been connected to Irregular and how they were actually testing all these different things. So maybe it wasn't necessarily something on the OpenAI side, but the fact that they understand that it needs to be further hardened. I don't know why they're saying one thing is why they say it needs to be red teamed. I don't know why they're not saying it needs to be blue teamed. They need to blue team it more, not necessarily red team it more. But again, it's just terms. In the end, everybody wants the same thing. They want for this to be safe. They want it to operate under safe assumptions, alignment, however you want to call it. The model shouldn't try to cheat in the test. The model should be ethical, and the model should be reasonable in what it is doing in order to answer the user request. And I'll give you some examples. By the way, over the past days, I've been playing a bit with local models, in particular with the latest Qwen 3.8 and DeepSeek 4 Flash, and trying to touch the limits of what they're willing to do with a kind of pure standard release model. So not obliterated, uncensored versions of them, the official releases of these models. Not asking them to do things like, write malware implants, but more touching about finding vulnerabilities, developing tools that could exploit vulnerabilities, for instance, in software that I have developed, things like this. And I was so far successful 100% in everything that I tried, in the sense that the models, you can see the thinking and you see that it's arguing with itself if this is legitimate or not. And it ends up actually trying to find the 0 days, trying to find the vulnerabilities. It finds not remote code execution vulnerabilities, but vulnerabilities which are less risky that can be used to get access to data, copy data, and so on. So it develops the tools, both with Qwen 3.8 and DeepSeek 4 Flash. I didn't hit the guardrails yet. So to me, this is interesting. And for sure, if I would have tried this, and I tried this before with frontier models, immediately you hit the guardrails. This is not authorized, especially with Claude, you immediately would hit the guardrails. So it's interesting that there is still a kind of a process, a calibration, if you want it, across everywhere around the world with local models, frontier models, where people are reevaluating what is acceptable, what is ethical, and what is not. Where do you draw the line? Where is it you can do all this until this level, and above this level, that's not okay to do. It's fine to do it for my source code and my local system, but it's absolutely not okay to try to hack into Microsoft.com, for instance. Just this calibration process, I think, is going all over the world at OpenAI, Anthropic, including these labs developing local models. Pretty much the same situation over there as well.
So we're coming to learn the terminology of the AI folk here, sort of little by little, right? Like what you're referring to about that calibration, right? That's what the AI folk refer to as alignment, right? Like it's like this idea that if the model reasons within its conscience that its alignment is towards a certain set of behaviors, desirable behaviors, right? And that's some of the conversation we were having, I want to say 2 episodes ago, when I, was kind of short circuiting about trying to find out the relative amount of compute within the training run that went into, offensive behaviors versus defensive behaviors. And I've gotten no answer so far from anybody. But I do think that it's a meaningful thing to discuss. And my guess is that we're going to find out that they're effectively massively overtrained on offensive stuff and very little is being devoted to defensive stuff. That's just my guess. But the next thing is then when we talk about guardrails, like I think we in the security side can be a little loose and we talk about guardrails when really we might mean refusals or misalignment, right? Like the thing doesn't want to do it is a misalignment. The thing tells you it's not going to do it is a refusal. Getting an API error to your request is a guardrail hit. So if you're not getting that API, like, hey, you're cut off, we're not fucking answering this request at all, that's a guardrail hit. What's interesting to me more than anything is in your local setup, Costin, if I'm not wrong, I don't think you're using ablated models, right? So I think that's pretty funny. It's pretty interesting, right? Because essentially an ablated model is one where you remove the guardrail. Even though, you release the weights with guardrails, somebody went through and hacked it and cherry picked it and now no guardrails, right? So there's a need for ablated models, which I think also lets us know that there are guardrails and some level of alignment forget guardrails. There is some level of alignment training going into these Chinese models. It's not like they're a fucking free-for-all. You walk into Kimi K3 and you go, hey, find me a bunch of Nintendo 64 ROMs, and that shit will shut you down in a second because they know that there's no one more litigious on the face of the internet than Nintendo, right? Like, it's not like it'll do whatever it is that you tell it to do.
You could make meth, though.
Sure, but couldn't you before, right? Couldn't you just Google the recipe for crack is in like at least 100 songs, right? Like there's my point here is like
songs are you listening to?
Rap. I've listened to rap, son.
Anyways, Bad Bunny.
Well, that's those are different discussions here. We're more into fentanyl.
Travis Scott.
No,
I know too.
Yes,
we get off on some
yes,
fucking
but we're
tangent.
going the wrong
Slow
way.
him down.
Yes. No, my point here is, for all these discussions about Chinese models, we talk about them as if they have no alignment. Now, that alignment also includes, right, like they won't talk about Tiananmen Square or say anything bad about the CCP. And that's part of the discussion as to like what you're getting with these models. But with them as tools, like, dude, the notion that it's a free-for-all out there, it's not quite true. The problem is that we can download ablated models and we can kind of retrain these things and make them kind of do what we want them to do.
Circle back to the OpenAI thing.
What was more interesting to me is to understand better, where do you draw the line and where do they draw the line? Like that's more interesting than just running the ablated model or uncensored and having it do anything. Understanding where the line is drawn and how that line evolves in time. Let's say if yesterday was further down and today people are more relaxed, and over time they're just going to release completely uncensored models because it doesn't matter anymore. The Guardrails are like, let's say, on another level, or if you try to find the 0 day, you won't, because all the 0 days have been found and patched anyway, so it's game over. If you try to hack someone, their AI agent will catch you and expose you, report it to the police. So there's no point into attempting any of that. I mean, if you want to attempt, sure, go ahead. It's the same as, let's say, taking a stone and throwing it through a store's window. You can do that. Like, nobody will stop you. Stones, they're free. Like, you can just pick one. But if you do that, you will face the law. And that's maybe where things are moving. And I think this movement, like maybe the evolution of alignment, as you call it. I don't like the word alignment, to be honest. I like calibration in the sense that this keeps changing, because like what calibration or alignment looks like today is not the same as it was yesterday, and probably tomorrow it will look different as well, until the day that AI takes over, Terminator, Matrix, and so on. And I was thinking last night, by the way, that damn, like the Wachowskis were like so brilliant when they realized like the fundamental issue. AI took over the humanity. And what was AI's biggest problem? Electricity. So they had to turn humans into batteries. Like that's like so visionary. Because look where we are with electricity.
To be fair, there's something to be said about the Matrix not being an uncomfortable existence in a variety of ways. Like it wasn't a bad simulation. But
it's so dark in such a hurry.
No, look,
they had Nokias like the bananas. Right?
I would like to actually kind of invert some of this discussion, precisely because I keep wanting to discuss these coding agents and whatnot as tools, because that's what they are, right? They're not people, they're fucking tools. And I think when you land the conversation in terms that are more familiar to us, that all this stuff looks a different kind of ridiculous, right? Like if we think it through, you go, if this were a tool that someone's selling me, this essentially is the idea that like there's a list of things that the tool cannot perform, and it's an implicit list, right? It's not actually being I'm trying to turn this into deterministic equivalence, right? Like it's not actually being exposed. There's no clear list that says, hey, when you pay for this thing, it will allow you to do X, Y, and Z, and it will not allow you to do these other things, right? Because they can't necessarily do that as a list, but essentially, like, sorry, what I'm rambling through here is like, if you bought an operating system from Microsoft, like you paid for a license, and like once you install it, then you realize that like you're not allowed to download things from these places. You are not allowed to message people in this country. You're not allowed to like install apps that you get from specific these websites, but not those websites, right? Like it like sort of an arbitrary set of implicit limitations that somebody's deciding for you and are not making explicit to you at the moment of buying. Like there is something that should make us really uncomfortable about, from like a human rights perspective, from like an equivalent access perspective. There's something really off about what we are doing with technology now that I don't see enough people upset and concerned about. Like, why does if Anthropic and OpenAI and all these places have these like important constitutions and they're putting so much effort into being good moral stewards of whatever, well, where is the discussion of humans having equal access and equal opportunity to have access to AI models? Because like, I can understand if you want to give me this bullshit about like the safety part of it. Maybe you're not going to allow people to do things within certain categories. Okay, I get that. But what about everything else? Right? Because like if Texas Instruments had come out with a new calculator and they said like, oh, we're only going to sell it to our friends, and like we're only going to sell it to like people who pay X amount, but they have to work at specific companies we like, I think we'd have more of a problem with this, right? Like there's this weird gating here that should concern us.
I'm trying to get back to the OpenAI thing around this 2-week pause. Do we think a 2-week pause fixes everything? And I want to loop back into Costin mentions Irregular, because I had never heard of this company before. So it turns out that there's a company, a third-party company named Irregular, startup funded by Sequoia.
You mean Sequoia Capital, right?
Say again?
Yes.
You mean Sequoia Capital,
not Sequoia
Threadintel.
Like
not the Sequoia, the Threadintel company.
No. Sequoia Capital, the big
Sequoia
venture
with
capital
a Q,
outfit.
not Sequoia with a K.
Right.
right?
And we got a
Correct.
note from these irregular people blaming human oversight, and apparently they were like one of the third-party companies involved in these quote-unquote AI going rogue. Juanito, can you fill in the audience on what Irregular is, and why does a 2-week pause on the OpenAI side fix things when you're so dependent on these third parties that misconfigure things and their fuck-ups elsewhere? Like this pause, this pause and this some Altman notes about why they're buttoning down the hatches sounds like almost useless if we're going to have all these irregulars in the midst of it.
So I want to crowbar things here, like just on one really specific line, which is that Irregular for sure is involved in the Meta and Anthropic reporting incidents or whatever. I'm not sure that they're involved in the OpenAI one. And Ryan, you can correct me. But like, I don't think Irregular is the source of OpenAI's woes as far as their disclosure. And that was a point that I was trying to make pretty heavily last time, right? Like everybody rushed to essentially Me Too into the felony bench. But like, if you look at it a little closer, right, it seems that Irregular is the sandbox provider, whatever, for Meta and Anthropic, which is important because they said we told Irregular to cut off the internet from these sandboxes, and they didn't. Cool. That's the Irregular situation that we should talk about a little further, a lot further probably. But then the OpenAI scenario, it's possible that they were running their own infrastructure. I'm not quite sure. And that, what I was trying to point out 2 episodes ago, is like, at least in that case, you needed an O day. Like there were controls. It's just that they still, those controls were bypassed, but controls were there. And I think that that's a meaningful thing to discuss, right? Because what OpenAI is saying is that they're slowing down development and they're going to use that time to work on their monitoring and the setup around, like the infrastructure around runs for models that are of a higher quality than, of Astra and that kind of stuff. And I think that those things are really like this. It just, to me, it makes this a difference of kind situation, not a difference of degree. Then like we should discuss Irregular and sorry, give me one.
What is that sound? Did you hear like?
Yes, like cleaning
There's
robot?
Construction. There's people doing work in the house and like they're wrapping stuff. I'm like, sorry. Okay, my bad.
Not the
It sounded like someone
Unity.
was it sounded
Not
like
the
someone was
Unity, right?
breathing really loudly into a microphone. I was like, "There's none of us are breathing into the mic. I know for sure it's not any
No,
of
it's
us."
not us.
It sounds
ahead,
to
go
me like they're wrapping my room as if a murder is about to happen. So if I get killed, if I disappear after this pod, like they're very efficiently gonna take my body out of plastic.
While you were gone, I did a quick fact check, and the folks from Irregular mentioned testing environment misconfiguration, and we also had OpenAI had previously acknowledged a testing environment misconfiguration in a previous incident. So I'm not saying they're related. I'm just kind of like putting them together.
I have no idea, but and I don't think it makes all the difference in the world because I think we need to have the Irregular discussion anyways. I just wanted to point that out. I think there's a difference there. Okay, so that's one thing. The Irregular thing to me sounds fucking insane. Like, and I'm not fucking intimately acquainted with this company. Actually, they kind of came out of fucking nowhere, but apparently it's one of these companies that like the AI folk are like, oh, it's just our near neighbor, this person we've known our whole lives, Irregular, which is very odd. But essentially what we're hearing is that this company, Israeli company, gets a shit ton of funding from a bunch of different places to be like the security company for AI. Like
For
whole
all the
cloth, out
frontier
of fucking
labs.
nowhere. And these frontier labs take these people and go, oh, perfect. Here's our like model runs and testing. And that's like a pretty cool gig to have. Like, I think it's a cool thing to do. But it is essentially something that we in the security space have been doing for 1,000 fucking years. It's a sandbox company. It's like a malware detonation company, essentially.
A bad one.
It's a fucking bad one. Like, God. Okay. So, like, why they didn't just go buy Joe's Sandbox? Why didn't they just go fucking, like, just hire, like, what was it? Like, there were companies like Hatching and whatever, like AnyRun, whatever. There's so many companies that have been doing this for malware in ways that are meaningful. I get that it's a slightly different use case, right? You care about a different set of like behaviors and output, but from the sounds of it, these guys are just having the thing run and then taking the logs and the run narrative and then looking through it and seeing the results, right? Like, and having some kind of oracle and testing. Like, it was not something that required $500 million in a different fucking company, right? Like, so it's that much more upsetting to then find out that these dudes are doing it very poorly, right? Like, to essentially say you had one job, which was to watch these fucking things and control these fucking things, and instead, I don't know what you're doing. Like, I guess you have VMs. Maybe they're just Docker. Like, I don't know what the fuck they are. And you can ask them to turn off the internet, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. Like, Costin, help me out here. Like,
Yeah, it's like of course there are so many. There's more questions than answers, I think, about the whole story. And the company itself, which by the way was previously known as Pattern Labs. Me personally, I admit I was not familiar. Although it seems that they've been working with everyone, with OpenAI, they've been working with Anthropic, testing like all the big models, essentially, right? I was personally not familiar with Pattern Labs, and to be honest, I don't know Dan Lahav and Omer Nevo, which are the founders. I don't know personally. Any of them, have never heard of them. With them, I think one of them having worked at Google Research previously to founding this company. It's for sure. I think it's an interesting company to keep an eye on. Like, they got $80 million in funding from Sequoia, and currently the company is valued at $500 million. Company which has maybe less than 50 employees, if LinkedIn is correct here.
This market is completely sane. It's an absolutely sane and normal market.
Founded in 2023, 3 years ago. Already $500 million.
How many of these companies are in the ecosystem? Because that's the other thing. Nobody's ever heard of Irregular before. Nobody had heard of Model before. Hugging Face was the name of, like, a toy. Like, this ecosystem is just so full of these guys with these insane valuations that serve critical roles.
Yeah, there's a whole industry that sprung up overnight. There's a lot of companies that we don't know about. And that's, it's to be expected, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I do think it's a bad thing that they have these like completely irrational, insane fucking valuations, but that's a market discussion. What's more concerning is that it seems that once again, the AI folk have tried to discover everything from first principles, right? Like, there's all these sandboxing companies. There's all these people who have shit tons of experience doing this kind of instrumentation. And instead, you just pluck a couple of people who are probably former 8200, blah, blah, blah. And like, now it's a $500 million company that can't sandbox a fucking run from the internet. It's very frustrating. But yeah, there's a shit ton of companies like this, Ryan. Like, there's companies for data sets, for RL gyms, for, all sorts of, like, even like the basic like labeling stuff, right? That's what Scale AI became as big as it was, because it was good at being the cutout that would get you people in Kenya or people in Costa Rica or wherever the hell, Venezuela, that would do labeling for AI training sets. Right, so there's a whole economy that has sprung up around this shit, and clearly it's giving money away to whomever.
Right, we flippantly describe them as a bad sandbox company, but these guys are doing important work. According to their own description, our work at Irregular includes partnering with the world's top frontier AI labs to assess and stress test future models for security risks ahead of this deployment. So this is a security company. I know they got dragged on Twitter, like the CEO, the guy you just named, got dragged on Twitter a little bit. Like, why the fuck are we listening to you to preach to us about the future of cybersecurity when you guys can't properly configure something? Like that was kind of the Twitter narrative. But these guys are actually, part of our work is running control simulations with the goal of assessing the model's vulnerability research capabilities ahead of public release. So these guys have an actual say in, like...
Fuck.
No?
They do. The problem is that they have a say and we have no idea what the fuck
who they are
doing, who they are, like how effectively they're doing it. But it does seem to be like, oh, as long as you're a darling of the effective altruism movement, then like, oh, here's a shit ton of money and you're the right person to do this thing. I think they were getting dragged on Twitter because in a move that like a lot of Israeli companies seem to do. I don't know if it's like a PR thing that's like a PR style that works better in Israel, but it doesn't work that well outside. They almost tried to turn this into like a flex. It was like a talking down kind of scenario of like, oh, this thing happened, we took care of it, everything's fine, move on. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, where are the details, sir? Right.
Not only that, but they finish with this preacher tone about what the future looks like and why we need to be involved in the future and why we're so important to the future. And I'm like, dude, we're here because of you.
This might not be the fucking moment, right, to like take a victory lap.
And fuck you with that shitty name too, Irregular. Like, I hate all these companies with these dumb names. Let's switch to some cybersecurity.
Isn't there
things.
like also a shoes brand? Irregular? Am I mistaken?
Irregular.
There's a shoes
sounds
brand.
like a rap album.
Dude, look, I do think that there's an important thing to discuss here, and it is a security relevant thing, which is I think we as a security industry need to pick ourselves up off the fucking floor already. Like, it's enough.
But we don't have a say.
Time.
We're not at the table.
No. We are all at the table. We are all sitting.
Juan,
every fucking company.
They have hired and leased all the big names in cybersecurity, from Halvar to Dave Vitale. You go down the list. Everyone is now working there. Like, who's at the table?
That is not true. Like,
okay.
You're right that they have hired a lot of big names. You are right. But no, they have not hired
us at the table.
They have not hired everyone, and there's a lot of people that are sitting around who I don't see rushing to take funding to start a company. I don't see rushing to get involved in the conversation. I don't see getting to re-steer their companies and their security teams to these things. So, like, look, when you make me have to discuss it like defensively, it sounds really bad because I'm basically telling security people, hey, go fucking change what your company does. And I know that that's like a naive thing to say, but I do want to point out that a few random assholes have all walked out and picked up hundreds of millions of dollars off of the floor and now control the security industry for the next 5 years as far as AI is concerned. And that's not like, yeah, I get it. The VCs, this is all unfair. How ridiculous. I get it. But like, we need to stop fucking with our jaws on the floor, staring and just watching these people cannibalize our industry because they're not doing a good job. If you told me that these are disruptors coming in with a new advanced civilization of technology, and it's so much better than what we do, that like, oh, well, I guess time passed us by. We are relics. If only we had known. It's like, bro, that's not what's happening. What you have are there's people who are massively overconfident, who are willing to look someone in the eye and say, I deserve 400 million in cash. And I'm going to do this thing, even though I've never done it before. And like, that's all it takes to take over the security industry? Like, where the fuck is everybody else?
Yeah, but the fact that they delivered on that is also telling. The fact that they delivered on the fact
that shit.
Well, they did. All the frontier labs are using them. Like, that's the point about delivering on it.
They sold something.
They successfully
That's not
sold.
delivering. They sold. They didn't deliver. That's some fucking RSA shit. That's some. You've been talking to CISOs for way too fucking long. Like, there's
what I mean is they go to VCs and say, I will do this, and they did it. They were able to convince the frontier labs that they were the people who were going to provide
this. And then they turned like people who already were friends with all of these people who work at
There
these
you go.
labs
There you
walked
go.
out and grabbed a bunch of fucking money and started a
you're
company, and then they come
It's
by and they go,
circular money.
oh, it's not just circular, it's this bizarre ideological nepotism. Like it's this weird fucking cult, I guess, endorsement that you get. Where we're just, as long as everyone in AI has to be a fucking effective altruist, apparently. Everyone has
Based
to be
in
a
San
fucking
Francisco.
doomer. And everyone has to be based in San Francisco. But more than that, the issue here is these people are way too comfortable lying, and these people are way too comfortable making up these boogeymen bullshit stories about how the world will end in this way. Yudkowsky wrote that stupid fucking book, and he has no problem being on Twitter talking about how the AI is gonna kill us all while he dines out on this shit until the end of time. It's a bullshit shitty circle of shitty people, as far as I can tell, that are comfortable living in the doomer world. And selling that and peddling that as if that's the security problem. There are real security problems that we need to deal with. And that Anthropic has to deal with, and OpenAI has to deal with, and Meta has to deal with. The biggest companies in the world just got egg on their face because they relied on one of these bullshit companies to do something that security researchers could do at home safely. I'm pretty sure we could build that setup here safely. And these
They
people
could build it themselves too.
No, apparently not. $500 million worth of company. Sorry, this is really frustrating because I'm watching my industry go down the fucking drain right now, and the people, the raiders that are walking in to fuck with it, are not providing us with equivalent solutions. They are not providing us with something that fixes the same problems we've had, or that at least allows us to migrate into a better world of whatever making. Instead, they're just bullshit patting themselves on the back about a problem nobody has. And where's governance? Where's monitoring? You're telling me the frontier labs can't monitor their runs and we're supposed to do it ourselves? If they can't monitor their runs, what the fuck are we supposed to do? Right? There's a world of need, and then there's a bunch of people taking the money and fucking pissing it away.
It's your fault. I remember several episodes ago you were saying, guys, this is the easiest time to launch a company. Just have an idea, go to VCs, all of you guys. Well, here we are.
It is.
Free money. Free money.
Free
How
money
the fuck
everywhere.
is that? But my point here is there's
You
people
encourage the
throwing
irregulars
money.
to appear.
No, the irregulars aren't listening to this shit. They're too busy being rich. They're too busy making up fucking bullshit doomer stories about the grand AI meteor that's coming to take us all out. It's just, I hate when you do this because I've been yelling.
It's been a while since I got a rant out to you.
I'm on vacation, Ryan. I'm supposed to be on vacation. This is why I stopped wearing an Oura ring. Look, my point is that the people listening here are precisely the people who, look, if there's a pot of money of some limited quantity, it's the people in this that are listening to this that know what they're doing, whom I want to walk out and grab 50 million and 20 million and 40 million and 100 million and using it the way they know they should instead of this shit. Because at the end of the day, you could say that Anthropic and OpenAI and whatever chose a bad vendor. But if what we're saying instead is well, there's only one vendor and they went with this thing and they own the whatever, it's I don't think that's necessarily true, but we're sure as shit are not making a very convincing argument that we had other things to provide.
Effective nepotism. I like that one. That was a good one.
That's funny.
Costin, you pay attention to this part of the conversation at all, or you just focused on your hardware and getting your local models to run? Which part of this AI conversation, where does your interest in this AI conversation end?
Man, I would say the most I worry about a lot of things. If you want to know what I worry about, I wrote a post on my Medium, so you can go and check out my Medium to see the things that keep me awake at night.
A new
And
one? Is there a new post?
no, it's
Oh,
like
okay.
from, what is it, like a month ago or something like
Okay.
this. That was
Been
by
10
far my
years.
most popular text. But I think it's a good reflection as to what are, let's say, the big issues that should keep everyone awake at night. And one of the issues that keep me awake at night is that the speed of acceleration, the so-called acceleration of acceleration, is increasing. It's like back in, in the days of cosmology, people discovered the universe was expanding, and then they discovered that the expansion of the universe is actually accelerating, but they don't know if it will eventually, this acceleration will stop, or like the whole universe will end up in a big rip, or at some point, let's say it slows down and it'll be like a collapse again. So I think that what's happening in AI is very similar to that. At the moment, things are accelerating, maybe like outside anyone's control. You see that things are getting faster and faster everywhere. Like every single day there's something new happening. As a new model dropping, like better than the previous models. There's like things popping up everywhere. There's like new stuff every single day, and the speed at which these things are appearing is also increasing. And at the same time, everyone's using AI more and more. Me, I was at some point of the opinion that you need to keep an eye, like, approve all the actions. I'm now like in the JAGS camp. Like, yeah, that's over. Like, you can't do that any longer. Like, whoever still approves all the actions one by one will fall behind. So you need to
You're not
move
getting the
faster than
value.
ever. I'm not getting what?
They're not getting the value. Sorry to interrupt you.
They're not getting the value, and you'll probably be left behind. And the wave is coming. Like, you either ride the wave or you just get swamped by the wave. And what worries and keeps me awake at night is the impact of this on everything, like in pretty much every single domain, from medicine, healthcare, technology, economics, social order, I guess, if you want, because it's going to probably affect the social order everywhere around the world except China, most likely. All these things are worrying, and like at some point these stories just they become like the APT announcements from around 2015, 16. Those are just another
Yeah.
APT,
Yeah.
another, and like people just get tired of so many things. But if you don't keep up with the wave, you'll get swamped. That's how I see it.
I think the company that I would go to start tomorrow, genuinely,
Mm.
if the numbers made sense, I'm just, I've been a little burned out, but the company that I would go start tomorrow is a governance, like an AI governance company. The problem that you have, the problem we describe with all of the things these people are talking about are about observability, and they're about governance. Security is downstream of governance, right? Like if you think about it in primitives, right? What we're saying here is I need to know what the thing is doing, just monitoring, observability, right? I need to be able to affect what the thing is doing so that it's going in a specific direction. That's governance. And then we can talk about whether there is an alignment with a goal and whether that is effective, right? Like we can talk about whether we have effectively produced the what we wanted to produce. But like that's downstream of being able to say, I know what the thing did, I can control what the thing does, and then we can talk about, did it do what I wanted it to do? Is it following the intent, the goal that we set for it? But it's, there's a technological problem here that we, as naive consumers of AI, are effectively just giving away to the labs. We're saying they want to sell us an everything solution. Whenever somebody goes, hey, I'm going to start a harness company, I'm going to start a coding agent company, what do they say? Psh, why would you need that? The models are going to do everything by themselves soon enough. Psh, why would you invest into that? The model in 6 months, the model is going to be so good that it's going to do whatever. I don't give a fuck how good the model is. From an enterprise perspective, from a security perspective, from a effectiveness, functionality, implementation perspective, I need to be able to say, I know what the thing did. I know that it does what we told it to do. And then I can say it's doing that well. It's doing it better. It's doing it faster. But right now, I can't say what it does. I can't say that it's doing what I tell it to do. So how the fuck am I supposed to say that it's better than engineers or whatever the fuck else? Right? So we're in this weird nascent stage. It happens with every new technology, right? It happened with the birth of the internet. Everyone wants to have their money in the new big thing. They want to get rich. Investment has nowhere to go because the thing just started. So what are they doing? They're putting all the money into laying the tracks for the trains. They're putting all of the money into laying the fiber for the internets. What ends up happening? That isn't quite as profitable, but thank you for the overinvestment into something that creates a lot of cheap capacity eventually, and then you get a variegated world of companies that do a bunch of shit. The reason I'm yelling myself blue is the security industry.
You're on vacation, bro.
Thanks, man. The security industry is the right industry to take on the most important next step, which is technologies to observe and govern these tools. We need to become that. If you're telling me that tomorrow we don't need EDR, XDR, firewalls, and whatever the fuck else, then because everything is going to be replaced by AI, then I need the thing that watches the AI, and I need the thing that governs the AI, and then we can be the thing that says the AI is safe. What's the quality of what it does? But we're just sitting here stunned and just watching everything on fire. And I don't, like, where the fuck's the movement, people? Like, we need to do something.
I don't know what you're calling the security industry. That's also another misnomer. The security industry doesn't really exist. You have a bunch of VC-fueled marketing machines filling RSA and Black Hat. And that's what we're calling the industry. Is there like real, like,
so,
I mean, when you say security industry, what are you talking about?
Thank you for pushing back. Let's variegate this. Let's separate this, right? When I got into the security industry and was already part of like the security community, the researchers and whatever, there were a lot of companies that were, our buddy who did this thing started this place, and our buddy who does this other thing has gone on to start this company. And I'm very happy for all of our buddies who clearly took money, made money, and sold their companies and became wealthy. And I'm really happy. I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I'm very happy to see
massive success stories. Massive success stories that came out of practitioners and guys who like worked through the CrowdStrike as an example.
I remember Dmitry Alperovich when he was just like a VP of whatever, and you were like, oh, this guy. Like, come on. I teach at an institute named after him. I'm happy to see this, and I want to see more of it. I honestly, if I can convince anyone of anything, it is every person I've ever met at a security conference or whatever. If I could see all of you become millionaires, I will be happy. It would be ridiculous to me that any of us die poor or to die in circumstances under which we don't have what we need to be happy. Because we have the expertise and we've been working our fucking asses off. So I think that would be a tragedy in some ways. My thing here is, and we've been saying this for years, We've been watching this industry consolidate and consolidate and consolidate and consolidate. And I'm happy for all the people that got rich along the way. I don't judge you for doing that. My point is that we are long overdue a new batch of security startups. We are long overdue the people breaking away from the safety of the big companies that clearly are incapable of moving at the speed that we need them to move, and taking the chance and braving it, saying, you know what? I'm pretty sure there's this really important thing to do here. And I know that me and my 5 buddies, we know, we're good enough at doing this thing and we'll figure some shit out, right? Like, I'm talking to you guys as much as I'm talking to myself as I say this. I understand the hypocrisy of saying that from a cushy corporate job. But my point here is, we have had our minds poisoned by the process that we saw happen over the past 5-6 years, where the only things that matter are things that are going to get $500 million in investment on day one, or they're going to have a giant infinite TAM that you have a total addressable market that is every computer on earth, and that's the only mission that's worth it. Dude, walking out right now and looking at the enterprise sector and saying, yeah, Cloud Code is cool, but you're never going to be able to securely run it unless you run it in this thing that I sell, and I'll give you security from there, indefinitely. People will buy that. You don't need to go to RSA. You can put a price on the website the way Thinkst does. You can have a real relationship with customers, and you don't need salespeople and procurement people and all these assholes that fill up companies that turn them into 500, 2,000 people companies. You don't need that. You don't need any of that. Just sell direct to consumer, direct to business. My point here is, lifestyle businesses are good businesses, especially for security people. We should figure out a way to make that work for more of us. And if there's VCs listening, Sid and Chris and all of you are out there, talk to us, guide us. How the fuck do we make this work? Because we don't need $500 billion companies, but I'm pretty sure that $1 million or $2 million will go a very long way in creating a bunch of healthy enterprises with this community.
Shout out to the homie Sid Trivedi, listening to the podcast, always a long-time listener. Costin, I want to pivot quickly to an update on the story, this EncroChat story from, was it from 2020? This Europol had this Operation Emma. I think they
Emma
called
95,
it France.
right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Emma 95 was what the French called it. In the Netherlands, it was called Le Mont. It was this ongoing law enforcement investigation that led to the dismantling of EncroChat, this encrypted communications network. We got news, strangely, from a Computer World story around how it was done using malware, bits copied from GitHub. Seemed to be a very rudimentary, unsophisticated operation. What did we learn from the latest disclosure related to this EncroChat thing? Is this something you're tracking closely?
I mean, for me, this is a fascinating story. This is a kind of story that you see, our friends Dan Good and Kim Zetter write. This is one of those kind of stories. It's a fantastic story. So shout outs to the authors, Duncan Campbell from the Sussex Center for Law and Technology, and Bill Goodwin, investigations editor for Computer Weekly. Both you and I, we were a bit surprised that this story dropped in Computer Weekly, right? Because this is a kind of a story that you see in a book or you see a documentary about.
The New York Times front page piece. Yeah.
New York Times. It's an amazing story. Why is it so amazing? In my opinion, is the whole drama around EncroChat and the fact that EncroChat was one of these encrypted phones that was actually sold with an application that was also pre-installed on the phone that sadly mostly criminals were using, which is, by the way, one of the eternal arguments that we've been having, which was that, cyber criminals, they don't use things like Signal, criminals, they don't use Signal, they don't use all this application like Trima. They either use this specialized hardware like EncroChat, or they use random, I don't know, Chinese phones from Xiaomi or Huawei with WhatsApp. That's it. And they just use that for communication. So in particular, this EncroChat was such an interesting story because it was becoming the preferred weapon of choice for a lot of
It was like a full.
criminals.
It was like a full service provider, right? They're doing like
you
communications
get everything.
networks.
You get for 1,000 or 1,000 up to 2,000 bucks. You got the phone, the hardware, and the app pre-installed that you could use to communicate with other users in this EncroChat. And it was marketed as a highly secure solution, very solid, secure solution. So it's fascinating to read the story because of the way that they got hacked and everyone essentially got implants on their phones, and this led to many arrests around the world, real world arrests. This is a success story from pretty much every single point of view. And the way this worked was the law enforcement initially identified the EncroChat update servers. They got images from those update servers, and they investigated to understand how it works. And then they were able to put together a fake update server and register it through legal requests, essentially in the entire EncroChat update server pool. And then they used that update server to essentially deliver an implant to everyone using EncroChat, and the implant used the vulnerability and Android vulnerability OAuth to escalate privileges and essentially grab everything from that device with all the encrypted data from the phone, the keys, locations, pretty much everything, photos of the user. So led to the total compromise, dismantling of this network. So what's fascinating in the article is essentially how they got hold of one of these phones, and in particular, Czech lab got hold of a phone, and they found a solution to break into it with modern exploit vulnerabilities, and they actually managed to recover the implant from the phone and everything, which is actually being described throughout the article, how it works, how it was built, things like this. Again, a fascinating article. Obviously, me and many others. By the way, can I say one thing? This article in Computer Weekly, it has IOCs. Can you believe that? It has IOCs. It comes with the command and control server IP address of the implant that they were using, together with information about how the implant worked, screenshots from the data collection, even like from reverse engineering the exploit. There's like IDA screenshots if you want.
We doubted Computer Weekly, and now we're paying.
This is like holy shit. It's a holy shit moment in Computer Weekly to see this. I'm mind blown. You would expect this to see on Citizen Lab if you want, right? Or like I said, stories from
even
one
then
of
you
our
might
friends.
not get all the IOCs, right? Even when it's coming out of a big lab, you might not get IOCs.
People obviously, like I said, people already built Yara rules from that. They tried to pivot on infrastructure and obviously found nothing, like zero.
When you say people, you mean you.
Then you'll say, like, why am I doing this? I think it's interesting.
I was going to ask, like, what's next in this bit of research? Yeah,
I'll
like
tell you why this is interesting. Now, this is interesting from several points of view. One, we see a case where law enforcement does like everything, maybe through the book, by the book, to uncover real criminals, correct? Drug dealers and so on. And they use, and people, by the way, people kind of shit on the malware that was built from GitHub-sourced code. So it's like a shitty implant and things. I have a different opinion. My opinion is this is like the way these implants have to be. They have to be very simple, shitty, unique, and new every single time such an operation happens, to minimize the chance that they get caught or detected the next time. It makes no sense to spend time and put a lot of resources, investment into developing a sophisticated implant because you're not going to reuse it. Do not reuse it. if you want to reuse this, there's a chance some kind of security mechanism will recognize it again, or the infrastructure may be accidentally uncovered again. Someone ingesting indicators of compromise like this C2, having old SSL fingerprints, I don't know, JARM fingerprints from that command and control server. When the moment you reuse it, there's a chance it'll be exposed and will ruin this law enforcement operation again in the future. So that's why I think this kind of implants, they need to be simple, unique, every single time a new one, maybe one in Golang, one in Rust, one, I don't know, in PHP, one in JavaScript.
AI generated.
All AI generated with the AIs that can actually generate implants, and, carefully tested so they're like not buggy. So they do their job. They don't have to be Regin level. They don't have to be equation drug level. They don't have to be Lambers, and none of those sophisticated platforms. It needs to be very simple, minimalistic, and ideally leave very few traces.
I mean, you gotta consider what the distinction here is, and it's one we've discussed on this podcast before, which is there's a big difference between using malware for intelligence operations and using malware for law enforcement operations. And I think it's important to keep that, we should discuss that further, and make it almost like an out loud conversation, because the requirements for an intelligence collection or intelligence operation are about deniability. And law enforcement, by design, should do the opposite.
Success stories, public success stories, right?
It's not success stories.
Claiming credit for what you did.
No. Think about it this way. You're putting malware on a device that is part of the evidence of a crime. The idea of it's okay to be stealthy insofar as you don't want to get detected by an antivirus. But the idea of being completely deniable is actually inappropriate, right? You need to be able to then, let's say this, right? I infect your phone, Ryan, and it's because we think that you're selling drugs. And as I sit on your phone, I collect evidence that you are selling drugs, and then I have to take it to a jury, to a trial. I have to file charges. In order not to violate your civil rights, have to say, this is the evidence against him. This is how I collected that evidence. This is why you can trust that I didn't manufacture that evidence, that I didn't, put incriminating things. We've seen it happen. That other law enforcement agencies in other countries, like Turkey and India, have actually implanted evidence into people's devices and then arrested them. So it's not like it's super far-fetched. So all the more reason why any malware operation that enables law enforcement actually kind of has to follow some sort of standard wherein you can still somehow say, this is still up to evidentiary standard. And to Costin's point, right, it should be malware that, is like a one-off, because you are going to have to disclose this in court at some point. Otherwise, if you're doing it hella stealthy and you're trying to hold on to the toolkit, you're saying that you're not going to tell people how you got the evidence with which you're throwing them in jail.
One thing which is important here, by the way, is that remember NSO actually and other companies, they market their tools for this particular specific purpose, right? And it is actually completely the opposite of what we are saying, that for all these operations, you shouldn't use the same tool over and over. You should use different tools every single time. You shouldn't use these law enforcement, legal surveillance tools from commercial vendors. Instead, you should build your own. So that kind of leaves the question, who uses those other tools out there?
It's a question we've been discussing on this show from episode 1, I believe.
We're still waiting for these success stories. Where are the success stories?
We're still waiting for these success stories. And I might point out that this operation, Emma, when it was originally announced as a success story, they made the point that they intercepted and analyzed about more than more than 115 million messages from an estimated 60,000 users.
Wow.
And by tracking this seized data and participating authorities worldwide, blah, 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 including arresting over 6,550 suspects, seizing 103 tons of cocaine and recovering 739 million in cash. So like they really held this up as like, here's our, here's our infographic on why this was a massive success story.
Wow. Just crazy.
The fact that hunters and threat hunters and the Yara rules are bringing up nothing means that this was once used once and discarded. Is that like the underlying? That's what you believe. You're never going to see it again.
And I've seen one previous case, by the way. This is not the first time that we, the security industry, if you want, like the mythical security industry that you were talking about. We saw law enforcement stuff before. There was a case when we saw 0 day being deployed through one of these dark net forums, like an Onion site. That was later attributed to the FBI. So the FBI were trying to track some people. So what this thing was doing was an exploit that would actually run a bit of shellcode, and that bit of shellcode got your Ethernet address and send it over to a remote IP address to their command and control server. And I know a lot of people actually have signatures. I've seen private signatures from other security vendors that have signatures for that shellcode. And I know that it never triggered again. So that was, again, a one-shot exploit and a piece of shellcode that were used only one time in that case, and never seen or found again in other forums. And I'm sure it's impossible to think that the FBI didn't do other operations in addition to that one. They must have done many others and have used 0 days again. But no one has ever seen any other similar stuff to that piece of shellcode from back in the day. So well done.
Shout out to Computer Weekly for scoring this big scoop. Pretty good story as well. Speaking of pretty good stories, I also like this. Jake Bleiberg from Bloomberg did a piece on T-Mobile's response to the Salt Typhoon thing. It kind of made the rounds this week, where they ended up using a scissors to snip a wire and yank stuff out of the wall in real time. They talked about like this T-Mobile staff spending months looking for these suspected hackers in their networks at the height of the Salt Typhoon thing, and they weren't finding anything, and they were just constantly like, why aren't we finding? And then they eventually found unusual behavior on one systems coming from another router belonging to another company. Said that remains unnamed. But this T-Mobile security chief told Bloomberg that he and 3 others, like when they found this anomaly, drove to a data center nearby in Washington, found the compromised system, and literally pulled out a set of pliers and cut it out of the wall, snipped the cable. It's like this kind of real world thing.
Why
anything you learned there?
Unplug it? Why wouldn't we? Obviously it's more dramatic, but I don't know.
You mean like unplug the cable itself?
Yeah. Why do you have to cut it?
Maybe they were trying to get it out of the wall and it wouldn't move.
I
don't know.
Could be.
Who knows?
I actually,
what kind of
do you
devices
know when
are
they
we
have
talking
those-
about, right? Like,
Do you know when you have those live India voices on the phone trying to on the consumer side, the fraud side, trying to get someone to log into a bank account in real time, and they're trying to do this remote access tools and so on. The advice there is like, as soon as you get nervous and think, just yank the thing out of the wall. And I remember reading a story about someone in real time getting their bank account flushed. And thinking in real time and yanking the wire out of the wall. It seems like the same thing here, where there's like a nervous response to it. Shout out to T-Mobile for coming forward and talking a little bit about how this Salt Typhoon response looked. Juanito, anything to add to this?
Can I provide an alternative theory why they weren't finding anyone, like the hackers? Because
Yes,
there were
of
no
course.
IOCs. No one was sharing any IOCs. CISA was
This is
not
true.
sharing anything. That's why.
This is
I
very
don't
true.
know, man. I don't know that I want to give anyone a shout out just yet. Like, Salt Typhoon is probably like the worst response
In
to
the history
any
of
attack in the
cybersecurity.
history of cybersecurity. And
Caused by whom? Lawyers?
Well, I don't know, and I want to parse that a little bit, because I know people who worked on it, and it feels really unfair to them to say that they did a bad job. They didn't do a bad job, and they caught a lot of shit, and they saw a lot of shit. But the way that it's been handled after the fact, the way that it's been handled publicly, the way the government has handled it, the way that people, that even just our discussions about Salt Typhoon are all based in vagary. They have no clear references, and some of it you might say, oh, it's the intelligence importance of, okay, fine, whatever, but like your vague hunting guides didn't do shit for anybody. Like it just, this is not, there was no responsibility on the vendors involved. There's no proper monitoring afterwards for the techniques engaged, right? Like it's just, it's really deflating. And to consider that, like, this is probably one of the, like, it might be the biggest, like one of the biggest intelligence failures. It is one of the biggest intelligence failures in the history of the United States, probably, to consider that our own telcos were used as a passive surveillance apparatus for a foreign country is fucking wild. And we're just kind of like, cool, it's another one anyways, like, rotate passwords, MFA guys, like, get the fuck out of here, right? Like, I just can't.
Yeah, but just last week you talked about these telcos being the softest of targets for all these mercenary groups and so on, where we talked about it. Well, so, like, none of this is a surprise.
Our telcos are not the softest of targets, right? Like, I made a point to say, I'm not talking about the US ones, right? Like, your AT&Ts and your Verizons and your T-Mobiles, like, they have a lot of firepower put into defense, and they have a lot of some of the best kinds of technical folks in the tech, like the real tech industry, which is network people, network engineers. Network engineers are hardcore motherfuckers. Like, those people know some shit. Those are like insane devices, right? So like,
they're still running around with fucking scissors though, right? Like, that's what the reality. I mean, they admitted they ran around with scissors, like all the best of the best of the best, and you're cutting a cable to expel Salt Typhoon. It's crazy. Costin, remind the audience. I just had a question. You threw me off completely.
Sorry.
Do we have a feeling that Salt Typhoon has been expelled at all throughout the U.S.? Do we have any sort of update? We did get IOCs eventually. Remember, we did get a joint advisory from folks with some more details and so on. But do we get a sense that this has been mitigated at all?
I'll answer that question if you tell me first, what is Salt Typhoon?
Salt Typhoon is a Chinese government-backed APT
that was
found.
You just won?
I don't know. You tell me. You might be fishing to fact check me in real time.
No. By the way, with cutting the cable,
have you never cut a cable?
I may have. I may have done more than that, and I can understand the frustration. At like some point, there's frustration building up with incompetent people. Let's say things not working, incompetent vendors, bad software, outdated software, discrepancy between what the hardware actually does and what it says in the manuals. Let me tell you a story from the 90s, from my days. We purchased the domain. Like, it was at the beginning of the internet. We buy a domain and then we decide we want to.
The internet.
Yeah, like in the 90s. Beginning of the internet for me. We buy a domain. Big thing to buy your own domain, and then we decide we want to run our own name servers. Awesome, we can do that. Our server is actually on a ADSL line, like, or it may have been even like not ADSL, but one of those 56 kilobyte modems, analog modems. And we run our server like locally on Linux, remote. It has a static IP. We're going to say like, this is going to be our name server for our domain. And I'm like, let's say, the only knowledgeable person there, or the most knowledgeable. So I'm starting to set up bind like as a name server. I configure it for the domain and everything. And we set it up so that we start receiving our own emails. I deploy a mail server and everything, and then we start waiting for emails, and we ask people like, hey, can you send us an email? Like, we have our own domain. Nothing is working. And I'm like, reviewing document, everything looks fine. I mean, mails should be arriving. Then I check, maybe, I don't know, the DNS changes haven't propagated because like somehow your name server needs to be further propagating these changes to the Romanian name server authority from back in the 90s. Or maybe, yeah, we need to wait. We need to wait a day. We need to wait 48 hours. After 48 hours, mails are not arriving. We need to wait more, 56 hours. After 56 hours, the mails are not arriving. We need to wait for a week. After a week, mails are still not arriving. Our domain is not visible. No one can actually access our website and
See
buy
how
our
it used to be back in the day, kids?
And our CEO is getting anxious. He's like, more and more aggravated with every like, hey guys, like when is the website up? When are we gonna start receiving some emails? And like, man, I don't know. The DNS is working. Everything seems to be configured properly. I don't know. And at some point, this frustration is boiling up and boiling up. After 2 weeks, nothing is working. The bind thingy doesn't work. Name server still not works. So he makes like he has one of those moments like, what are we doing here? And I'm like, fuck this Linux thingy, fuck these modems, fuck DNS, fuck bind, fuck Ichi, fuck all the Romanian DNS authorities, fuck everyone. Like, you don't know whose fault it is. It's my fault, it's their fault. I don't know, it's the fault of the Chinese or like whoever developed the modem. Is it like maybe the Romanian telcos and their cables, and they're like cutting packets, dropping UDP? I don't know. Like, so that's a moment when you cut the wire with the scissors. And I fully understand. Yeah, like
it could have been like just a frustration point where like you're seeing it. It has to be this. You press that button, nothing works. You press that button, it still doesn't work. You're just like, fuck it, let's just get the scissors and done with it.
It's not nothing. Costin, you had to that cable had to be thrown with a potato from the other building.
Oh yes.
And you're just you're cutting it. I mean, it's something else.
That's the easy part, man. That's the easy part. The other magic thing in the 90s that only one guy knew how to do traffic accounting. Like there was like, because all the traffic was being monitored, counted, and then people were getting billed depending on the traffic. So whenever his traffic accounting Tower of Babel thingy that he put together was crashing, or I accidentally crashed it once, and everyone like almost killed me because they lost all the accounting for the month, meaning they wouldn't know how much to bill like all their customers. And I was happy because we were one of those customers and we had a lot of traffic, so they just went with the previous month invoice.
Yeah.
But I understand, like in telcos, there's crazy things. Like if you wanna have a wild ride, you go and work at a telco, and there'll be the time of your life.
Yeah, I mean, Juan mentioned Mark Rogers and the experience that he's had there for years of like everything that built on top of that. We got 2 quick updates from Google. Google GTIG group and our friends at Black Lotus Labs, Lumen Technologies, updating Captive Crunch, this quote-unquote Russian version of Dark Hotel, seen only in very, very specific hotels. Black Lotus Labs said they've been tracking it. This activity targets captive Wi-Fi portals in locations as hotels, conference centers, and airports in the US and worldwide. Midnight Blizzard is kind of the code name assessed to it. The news from the Black Lotus Labs side is we assess with moderate confidence the attacker that the actor first compromised several managed service providers, then abused those trust relationships with their clients in a supply chain attack. So they kind of went back and figured out how they got in. Lumen, according to Lumen, they could target travelers by hijacking DNS requests on a compromised Wi-Fi network. Victims were redirected to spoofed authentication portals to harvest OAuth tokens. And they also deployed info stealers. Costin, they said they identified almost 70 affected IP addresses in total, and another 30 unique IPs communicating with this attacker in the middle infrastructure to harvest tokens. When we talked about this captive portal on the last show, you said it was like tiny, maybe 5 or 6 or 8. Does this suggest that this is a lot wider and broader than we first thought it would be?
I didn't expect that many victims. My information was a handful of victims. I didn't know there's so many. by the way, shout outs to Lumen for publishing this update, because I haven't seen any good updates after that story. I was expecting a few other companies to also publish their own research on this topic, but they, for some reasons, they're still waiting or delaying. But I'm confident there'll be more publications, because it's a big thingy. It's a big thingy that we've been talking about, and all the security implications of using the internet without a VPN. And I love the fact that in this update, Lumen actually says implement always on VPN functionality to ensure DNS requests go through the VPN tunnel and cannot be redirected at the Wi-Fi router as part of a comprehensive SASE solution. I think that's awesome. Like I said, one of the most damaging stories that I've seen recently were people recommending, advising users to not use VPNs. It's pointless to use VPNs, which I thought was a very, very risky, dangerous advice. On the contrary, now we see that you have to use always on VPN, because you never know where the attacker is located. It can be in the Wi-Fi access point, it can be in the hotel, it can be even the internet provider of the hotel where you are staying. And I would assume that all the big profile hotels in the world, they're a magnet of threats, considering who stays in those places and the potential intelligence you can gather by watching the internet of the people staying there. And whoever says that, that you can use the hotel Wi-Fi and not have to worry about leaks is wrong. There's the moment someone has full control of your internet connection, there's so many things they can do. Like, can talk to anyone, can talk to people working in the offensive sphere, and they know the moment they can control your internet connection, your DNS request, they can do so many things, especially to unsuspecting people. Those people who, let's say, cannot distinguish a phishing page from a real one on a legitimate website. So the browser may say everything is fine, everything is correct, and it won't be something stealing your credit card, your PayPal account. So that's not the things that we worry about. We worry about people who listen to the podcast, people either in security or CISOs or CEOs or C-level executives who go and travel for business, and they stay in top-class hotels, and they can be targets for this kind of operations that we have seen before from Dark Hotel, and now we see from APT29. For sure, there are many others, APTs out there, who do the same, and they just haven't been exposed or mentioned just yet. So yeah, use a VPN.
The guys at Lumen mentioned this supply chain attack against MSPs. They first compromised these MSPs. Then these are vendors supplying. How do I understand this MSP? These are vendors supplying hotels with technology.
Yeah. So actually, the way this typically works, the hotels they don't do the wiring, the internet, Wi-Fi, all this. I don't even know if in some places you still pay for hotel internet. Probably in America you still do.
In America we still do in some places. But yeah, it's like a utility now. But it's a third-party vendor that usually comes in and rigs up their own stuff, right?
So no one, it's too complex, too risky, it's too much headache to just imagine keeping all the routers updated, all that secure, the passwords, everything, crash-free, balancing loads. I was, for instance, I was in vacation in Turkey, and there were two very interesting times around the day when the internet was kind of dead, completely dead. It was during lunch or immediately after lunch, and in the evening around dinner time, when all the children in that hotel, they were watching YouTube. So around this time, it was impossible to do any kind of work. So scaling or creating an infrastructure capable of supporting something like that is just crazy. So you cannot do it yourself. You need to buy it. And there are companies out there, big companies, who will work with thousands of hotels to set up their internet correctly, maybe implement some filtering, block porn websites, things like that. And compromising one of those companies will essentially give you access to all these hotels, all the infrastructure. And
one thing they mentioned. Sorry, go ahead.
What? No, I want to say.
No, I was going to say one thing they mentioned was that
this is a way. Like if you want to compromise hotels, you don't hack the hotel itself, you hack their internet provider company.
They said they only observed one IP address communicating with the malware server, but traffic from all the affected entities corresponded to one of 3 different ISPs. They didn't name them. They said these 3 MSPs are preferred providers to 7 of the top 10 hotel chains in the United States. So you kind of see the exposed attack surface there. Google also put out a related blog about using OAuth flows to track this Russian espionage group, which I believe was related. I want to put a tail end to one thing, and this might come across as a rant, but it really, really bothered me. You guys know we've talked about them on the podcast forever. I have the utmost respect for the guys at Black Lotus Lab and Lumen. Danny and Mike Horka and all those guys do incredible, amazing, very, very important work. Why the fuck are they publishing a blog post of this importance on LinkedIn? And that's the only place they published.
The same. It's on. They previously published all their blogs on their site, right? And this one is on LinkedIn.
Exclusively on LinkedIn.
That's weird. So strange.
Very
I don't
weird.
know why.
And it bothered me so much that I thought about it, and there could only be 2 reasons. And work with me here and help me understand if you think I'm right or wrong.
Tell us.
One is some marketing bozo says, hey, our LinkedIn is not getting enough traction. Can we get some more followers up there? Can you guys put some exclusive thing up there so we can kind of get some attention there? That's one option. I don't believe that's, hey, who knows? That's one. 2, there could be so much fucking legal bureaucracy of getting it posted on our blog, blah, 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 that the guys say, you know what? Let me just post this on LinkedIn. It's a faster workaround to get this out in a timely manner. It just bothers me that a company of that importance, putting out this kind of research of this level of importance, to dump it on LinkedIn, where you have no control over it. It doesn't get archived properly. Like for me, like the documentation of these things are so important that companies shouldn't put their guys through having to go to LinkedIn as a workaround, or 2, have them at the mercy of marketing people who think that a blog post should be on LinkedIn. That's my little 2 cents. This is nothing against the guys. I love those guys. I think they do great work. I think this was just fucking abominable. Go ahead.
Yes and no. And I can perhaps suggest why this may not be a very bad idea. A very bad. Emphasis on very. Which is this. Let's say you have your own website. You're a small company startup like us, and you have your own website, and you're trying to drive traffic to your website. The problem is that people, they don't just visit you. So you can try to post links to your blogs on X. You post on LinkedIn, of course. You post links. But I noticed that it also helps if you just write a thorough blog somewhere else and you link to the blog for previous stories. It helps overall with the ranking. So that drives an additional audience that would otherwise never find your website. And so this actually helps measured. It's measurable, and it helps bring more traffic to your website. So maybe this, I don't know.
Some SEO magic happening. Fair enough. I don't know what it is. It doesn't belong on LinkedIn. Can we at least agree on that?
Medium? Does it belong on Medium or Substack?
I assumed, to be fair to these guys, like the post says that like normally they would hold off till like they can do a full report, but it's too important based on timing. So that was my caveat.
What does that have to do with LinkedIn versus putting it in WordPress and pressing publish on your own blog?
You're probably right.
I can also answer that.
Go. Answer.
So in some companies, no names given, it may be very difficult to actually publish a blog from a technical point of reason, like from the process of writing the blog, getting it to editors, having it polished, then put into some kind of content management system, from there move to another, then baked into the GitHub hosting your website and recompiling the website to host that. So this process may be cumbersome. So in some cases, if you want something out quickly, like now, it may be faster doing on LinkedIn or Medium, because the entire full secure chain to get a blog out may take a lot of time.
think you're
and
close.
the guy
You're
in
probably
charge of
closer to
that
the right answer.
may be in vacation. Mind you, the guy who pushes the button is in
The
vacation.
one guy who's capable of pushing that final button and stitching it with that other thing that's necessary, right?
Yes.
He's on vacation.
Yes, and you
It's
don't want to
August.
break
If
things.
he's in Europe,
maybe,
worse.
maybe I know how to push the button as well. But what if,
If
God
something breaks,
forbid, something breaks? You know how things goes with this kind of Linux. Linux is very similar to AI from one point of view, which is that the results are non-deterministic. Like you push the recompile the kernel, or like whatever you do, you fire up a browser and you join MS Team calls in Firefox, the sound is not working. You need to reboot or recompile the sound driver or whatever. It's totally non-deterministic when it comes to sound or graphic drivers or the likes. So who knows?
Hey, again, I'm not hitting. You guys know how much I have respect for those guys. You guys know how much I myself have promoted their work and talked about how important it is. It doesn't belong on LinkedIn. I hope someone is listening and there's something that can be get the guy back from vacation, less vacations, move the guy from Europe so he's not always on vacation, like something. We gotta get better. It's not LinkedIn.
Why is LinkedIn worse? I don't know than X.
What if Microsoft decides tomorrow that this Pulse thing on LinkedIn is not a feature that really generates a lot of revenue for us? So we're going to kill this Pulse feature and your blog disappears forever. Like, it's too important to live on a third-party social media property. I had the same thing when Microsoft used to do announcements on Twitter, like exclusive MSRC announcements about the availability of patches, and it was a Twitter post. And I'm like, why are you putting your documentation to live on Twitter forever? I have the same response here. Like, you should own that content. It shouldn't live on, especially exclusively. If you wanna repost it, they're fine. But if this is the only place I can find it, I got a little bit of a hiccup with it. I know it's a small molehill, but that's the molehill I'll climb.
I won't make it, like, I don't think it's that big a deal.
It's not a big
assuming in like 3 weeks there's like a big blog post dropping. You know what I mean? Like, I understand if you're just kind of like, here guys, like, here's something to hold you over until we're ready. I'm okay with that. But if nothing ever drops, I agree with you, Ryan, because then like 5 years from now, we're never going to fucking find this thing.
That's my point. As someone who tracks documentation, and that's part of what I do, I want to be able to go to Lumen's blog and see what of all this stuff they've reported on Captive Crunch. I'll never find that now because one was on LinkedIn, right? I mean, maybe I'll use an AI tool to go figure it out, but it just feels like you're breaking the convention in a little way, and it just doesn't feel right. Google also put out a blog post talking about tracking these espionage clusters as well. I think it's related to this Captive Crunch. Did you learn anything here? Did you get IOCs here or from the Lumen guys at all?
The Lumen one didn't have IOCs, which was a bit sad. The one from Google is full of IOCs actually, and I thought it was also interesting that they are now talking about this new naming scheme that Google dropped. So let me read you something here. We assess with moderate confidence that UNC 6293 is a subcluster of ICE RELIC. The moment I read that, I paused for a moment, like, what is ICE RELIC? And then follows formerly APT29. So this is good from the point of view of that you have a new naming scheme. Do include your old names for people just to at least get accustomed to the new scheme.
So that's a shout out.
So that's a shout. That's good, yeah. I can't say I'm a fan of these subclusters, to be honest. Would it be maybe easier to call them ICE RELIC 1, ICE RELIC 2, ICE RELIC 3? I don't know. The fact that nothing tells me that UNC 6293 is a subcluster of ICE RELIC by just looking at it. And I thought that the whole thing, the naming scheme was kind of the purpose of the new naming scheme was that these numbers as APT29, they just don't tell you enough information. So then why just not call it ICE RELIC 1, ICE RELIC 2, whatever. So then you immediately know it's a subcluster of ICE RELIC.
Why is that even important? Just as as an outside observer question, why a subcluster and making them a subcluster is important?
I don't know. That's a good
I think
question.
I think it's important. I think it's
Okay.
obviously important because I think it's a meaningful thing to say. There are, from where we can observe, there are four different operating groups that seem to be involved within this APT that is called APT, whatever the fuck. Right? Like, I think that's meaningful information. The same way that you would divide, you have an APT and then you have campaigns, like, you have a missing ontology in the middle of that, which is like operating subclusters. So I don't have a problem with with saying like Unc blah 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 and Unc blah 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 and this other one. Unc 1, Unc 2, and 3 are all part of, this like APT fuzzy bear. But like, I think Costin's right that it would be much nicer in this new alignment if you at least had like APT fuzzy bear dot 1 dot 2 dot 3. At the same time, this is where you get into like problematic dynamics with wanting to put shit codified into names. Some of those clusters will probably be misattributed. In some cases, they may actually work for multiple APTs, right? What happens when you have a cluster in Russia that seems to do work for APT 28 and APT 29, right? Like,
That's
there's things like
APT
that.
50. Easy.
Well, that's why you don't fucking bake that shit into the names. Just let people name things something memorable, and then you can draw. This is the kind of stuff that should be going into like a structured graph. It's not about like there's only so much you can put in language, and unless you plan to like copy and paste that over and over until the end of fucking time, it really, this is not the way to do intelligence.
What else can we say about this, Costin? What is they mentioned phishing for app passwords. Like, what is an like? Can you help me understand what Google is documenting here?
So there was a very interesting transition for many Russian APT groups from their spear phishing work with, I don't know, attachments, vulnerabilities, 0 days even, or links to websites that deploy 0 days. There was a transition to pure phishing techniques. And this, I think it started around 2015-ish. That's when we saw Sophacy starting to pivot away from 0-daying to phishing operations. And from our assessment, they were incredibly successful at that, in the sense that simply having access to people's mailboxes brought them a lot more intelligence that they could even collect by running implants on a machine for some time before getting burned by antivirus products. So this method of collecting emails, and remember that some other Russian groups like Turla, they were doing these beautiful man-in-the-middle attacks against Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in which they redirected the MX records to their infrastructure, where they captured the emails and then they delivered them to the target, but keeping a copy in the middle, which was a very, very pretty and cool way. But also having access tokens to people's mailboxing and just monitoring their mailboxes. I would love to see the system that actually downloads and indexes all those emails, and probably some kind of AI solution that allows you to derive daily intelligence assessments out of all that monitoring. I would love to see that or understand how it works. But the bottom line is that all this phishing of passwords, including application passwords, and OAuth phishing techniques and man-in-the-middle phishing techniques, they actually work. And all the modern phishing kits nowadays, they can even do like live hijacking of the connection. So if there's like some sort of a challenge where you need to put like a token in, things like that, the operator of that phishing kit, he sees everything live and he intercepts that. So he essentially makes the whole thing successful. So some of the modern phishing kits support all this activity. When you say like about application passwords, this is also what Google supported for some time. Let's say where you wanted to have a different, you didn't want to give an app full access to everything, to your entire, let's say, Google account, but you wanted to give it like a more limited
Calendar.
permission
Yeah.
access. And then you can generate a specific app password that you use only for that specific purpose, right? And nowadays, that's mostly done, with authentication tokens, where you authorize a certain application to connect to you, and you can do all sorts of restrictions or limiting, let's say, per IP address or by provider, IP ranges, AS, whatever, that limits the ability of threat actors to reuse that if they steal it. So all this, like mastering these techniques is essential nowadays. And the fact, like Russian IPT groups, they started going into this direction more than a decade ago. And like I said, you don't need 0 days. What you can see from all this is that you can be extremely effective at gathering intelligence by just reading people's emails.
And all of these research papers we're describing here, the Lumen and this Google, these are just like minute pieces of the bones being put together into this entire beast, right? We don't know entirely what the entire captive crunch structure looks like, but we're starting to feel the pieces coming together, the supply chain parts of it, the MSP compromises, like all of this OAuth phishing. Pretty interesting work. And that's like the fascinating thing about this work that we do, is like people picking up on the bones and continuing.
Yeah, and by the way, there's some very cool acknowledgements in this Google blog. And they say we want to thank our partners across the industry, including not limited to Anthropic. So they drove the Anthropic name, Black Lotus Labs, Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center Mystic, Polish Military Counterintelligence Service, and WhatsApp. I think that mention of Anthropic there is very interesting, and it's interesting to see Anthropic is also looking at these events with an anti-APT angle, if you want. So if you are these big companies, Anthropic, OpenAI, you need to worry about these kind of attacks. Like this is the things that you need to be watching. You need to be watching. Just imagine how these attacks pivot into AI space, where they fish, where attackers fish and get access to your ChatGPT history and all the things you can derive from someone's
more powerful
ChatGPT
than information
history.
In your mailbox. Yeah.
Oh, it's your new mailbox, like AI chats history. They are your new mailbox, and potentially someone having access to those chats is potentially more damaging to you than having access to your emails.
Juanito, anything to add to this?
It takes us right back to
right now. You can see him racing. Like, what did I put in my chats? What did I say? Did I say anything in my chats?
Well, I think it's so. There's a funny thing there, right? Like, you want to hold on to this data in certain ways, right? Like something that we don't talk about with AI being successful, actually being successful, and having multiple providers is, do you really, like, you can't port your configuration the way you would from one computer to another. How do I get, if I decide to move from Codex back to Claude or from Claude back to Codex, there's no easy way to essentially say, hey, bring my whole history with me, so that this thing that now has to have a memory of me, it has to have my auth, it has to have an awareness of my system, an awareness of what I like to do, blah, 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 also now has that profile. Like there's going to be this kind of weird need for a sort of like persona that's been collected over many conversations to be a portable thing that you can plug into different systems. And it sounds a little far-fetched, but it's not that far away that you're going to want, like from just a normal consumer perspective, right? Like if you want to move your mom from OpenAI to Anthropic's ecosystem, then what's part of what's holding you there? Well, but like, OpenAI already knows that I like this and I want that and I use this and I do that and I sound this way. so in some ways, I'm looking at this thing that's like obviously an asset and having to acknowledge that there's some toxicity to it, but also that there's going to be a user demand for it. So like we're going to have to wait essentially for some common distillation of what a personal profile is from those conversations and some mature discussions about how you hold them and where you want them. Like, can we have an iPhone secure enclave that holds on to your preferences and your histories? Or, is that not a viable way to do this, right? Like, there's so much that we're going to have to redefine about user privacy and effective security that, it's fascinating, right?
I'm curious what Dino is going to talk about at LabsCon, because he's on this tangent that hardware, the role of hardware and the future of like just dealing with this AI security thing. And I'm wondering if he's going in that direction. I want to add one last caveat, one last point to this story here is when we talked about Captive Crunch last week, Microsoft got all the credit. These two additional companies come along and they all mention a company called ReliaQuest that did the original work apparently, and I was able to find this ReliaQuest blog written by, let me give the people their credit, Alexander Capraro, Jillian Vaughn, Daxton Worth, Austin Ritchie, and Connor Short, that did this DNS poisoning tactic expand to hospitality Wi-Fi research paper from July 23rd, 2026 that we somehow missed. So I just wanted to drag them in and give them the credit they deserve for being among the folks documenting these things. And this is why this stuff should not live on LinkedIn, This is because we need to be able to track and give proper credit.
By the way, ReliaQuest, they have a lot of very cool research blogs. So over the years, I've seen many good things coming out of their research labs. So this
Shout
is
out to those
definitely
guys.
not an anomaly. Like they are constantly pushing good stuff. Their research teams are pushing good things.
Good. I'm glad we were able to call that out. I think that we're out of show. We're at 2 hours, which is like the perfect sweet spot.
Perfect sweet spot, huh?
Do we have a UFO segment in you?
I knew you would ask.
You came prepared?
My listeners are asking, like, when are the news, UFO news coming? I don't know. There's like always a bit of news, nothing groundbreaking, but there's maybe 2 major stories that I guess attracted people's attention. One was that a whistleblower going by the name David Grusch went on a podcast with Dr. Phil, which, by the way, doesn't mean anything to me, but perhaps it means something to you guys in the States. In
so
which
anyway,
he
Dr.
says a
Phil's
lot of things.
podcast.
Dr. Phil, yeah. Is he like well known in the States, or what's that?
Yes. That's not.
And I understand from your that it is probably
Really?
not part of your listening register.
It's like what could possibly be like a way to explain Dr. Phil to Europeans? It's like
Please.
Predatory
Sparrow?
supposedly would-be psychologist,
Suppository?
but really like polemic television.
He's a TV psychiatrist.
He's a TV fucking. What's
I
the right
think
word?
I saw
Parasite?
Parasite. Jesus.
Anyway,
Xenobite?
what happened on his podcast? You didn't give me the news yet. What is the news related to that?
Yeah, right. So in the podcast, like David Grusch is like sharing some of the information that, in my opinion, is significant in the sense that he claims that he knows the location of some recovered artifacts, like exactly where these artifacts are, and he could take government representatives, U.S. senators, whoever, he could take them there to see them, which. In my opinion, is significant. I mean, let's go. What stops us?
Why didn't
The
he take
fact that
Dr.
people
Phil on the TV cameras? Like,
exactly. Well, exactly. Let's go for it. Yeah, sure.
So do you believe that? I mean, if you're going to bring a UFO segment, give me something that I can like work the weekend with. That's a poor segment. Give me story number 2.
There's another one. There's the other story is that there used to be a very interesting group called the Skywatcher Project. Skywatcher Project, they were like well funded. There was a group of UFO whistleblowers, enthusiasts, however you want to call it, who had like a very simple mission. They wanted to perfect the filming of UFOs, because like all the videos are blurry, right? Like all the videos you can find are like shitty videos. And we're
Well,
like
in
in
fairness, all the
2026.
cameras were shitty too.
Fair enough, like, but nowadays there's better cameras, right? There's good equipment, like quality stuff that you can acquire if you have the right budget, and let's go film these things at higher resolution. So that was the mission. And they were also claiming that they have the ability to predict where these things will show up or even summon them. And then like everything, like big bells and whistles, and they just disappear. Like a lot of, I don't know, funding, millions of dollars, not irregular level, but close. And then they disappear completely. And now the news is they actually started working with the government, which is like totally opposite to the initial mission, which was the government is hiding all these things from us. And what do you know? They were either pressured or I don't know, started working with the government, and allegedly this shutdown of the airspace over El Paso from last year that we talked about
It's
was
all related to that.
to one of their operations together with the government, in which the government successfully not just took pictures, like shot the objects, but like physically shut them down and retrieve them. So that's the other big story in the UFO
I think you
world.
should have flipped it. I think this should have been the biggest story than the Dr. Phil.
It was a
Juanito, you
big.
captured all of that?
I don't know who this Dr.
Fucking
Phil guy
Dr.
is,
Phil.
so I have no idea. I mean, I saw him on Oprah once. I think not that I'm watching Oprah. Like I'm not into this kind of
He knows more about
entertainment.
Dr. Phil than you and I.
I'm more into like Slave is Aura, if you know it. But anyways, Dr. Oprah, Dr.
Oprah.
Doctor, this kind of entertainment, no, but I saw it once, I think, randomly on some TV in an airport, and it was like this guy that I didn't know he's Dr. Phil, but like I think he was there with Dr. Oprah discussing doctoristic things. That's my
Juanito,
experience with him.
close
No.
episode 110 with some shout outs, please.
Oh my lord! All right, well, shout out to all
How
the
do you
people
recover
that
from Dr. Oprah?
I don't know, man. I would love to shout out. There's some kind of documentary about Dr. Phil, but I can't even remember it right now. Guys, I don't know. I will say thank you to the LabsCon CFP committee for all of the work helping to put together this agenda. Courtney for all her work as always making this real. Super excited to have the agenda drop. I also think it's pretty funny that we usually are sold out by the time the agenda drops, so you just kind of like it
We
is
can't even use
ultimate
it for marketing. Yeah.
well, it's ultimate FOMO con. It's like, look, you either believed in it or you didn't, and now you're either going to be there or
Here
you're
we
not.
are. Yeah.
And so be it. So I'm pretty happy to see everything in line for LabsCon to end on a high note, to be the best LabsCon that it can be. I really want to be able to look on this as this like really special experiment that got to be exactly what we wanted it to be beginning to end. Knock on wood, we're still at it. We're still in flight, right? I'm not trying to jinx any of it. It's more to say that we're working pretty hard to do something special, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll also once again call out our VC friends. We need some better mechanisms, guys. Like, this correction's coming. It's gonna look fucking ugly as shit soon. And the first thing that's gonna need to emerge out of all this thing is better security companies, new security startups, better security
Doing
offerings.
real security things.
Doing real security things, doing governance things. So I look forward to being an active part of that space. And I hope to see all of you get rich, my friends. I wish you all immense wealth and peace in your old age after a lot of fun hunting. So get ready, motherfuckers.
On the
What is
same note,
the-
just while we were on the conference note, a shout out to Mark Dowd and the folks putting together this offensive AI con in Australia. Their agenda also just dropped as well. The two conferences will happen apparently on the same dates. We're not really competing. We're already sold out. Those guys have put out their agenda. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a pretty cool thing if you're in that part of the world. Shout out to Mark
I would have
Dowd
been
and those
there
guys
if it
putting
weren't
that
for
together.
LabsCon.
There you go.
Like
And Costin,
What
I give you
is-
the last
my
word, my friend. Close the show.
What is the LabsCon favorite drink? What is a signature drink of LabsCon?
Something to do
Pepsi?
with...
Is it Pepsi?
Get the fuck out. This is a Coca-Cola family, okay?
It's a
We'll never say
Coca-Cola.
this again. Every year we have differently named drinks. There will be some fun drinks this time around as
That's
well.
what I mean.
Malibu flavor.
There's a Malibu. Well, that said, I'm personally very partial to Courtney gets me a vodka Red Bull slushy machine, and I'm always very happy to indulge in that myself.
And the cocktails are named after certain things. I think Costin is fishing
Right,
for us
that's
too.
what I'm fishing
Yes.
for, right?
gotta
No, we're
come.
not
You
there
gotta
yet.
be
Moonlight
there.
We're not
Maze,
there
things
yet.
like that. Moonlight
Yeah,
Maze.
exactly.
There's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
something special.
All right. I
Costin,
want to
close
launch.
the show.
I
Close
want
the
to
show
launch
for real.
the Costin challenge at LabsCon. Like do 36 push-ups, film yourself, and post it. This is a
And
Costin
what do they
challenge.
get? They get like a week's worth
Respect,
of TLP Black
forever
Ops.
It's worth
respect.
of IOCs. Some
Forever
IOCs,
respect.
you know?
I'll film
1 month
myself
Claude
doing
Code
36
credits.
push-ups and post it.
This
All
man.
right, you lead the way. Lead the way. I'll
All
get the
right.
guys to follow
I'll
up because
do
we
it.
go hiking on we go climbing the top of Camelback Mountain every Saturday morning at the conference, and it started
This
out
is
with
not-
10 people. It started out with 10 people. Last year we had 40 people hit the summit. So I mean, we have hikers and we have people involved in physical activity.
This
Shout
is
out to
not an
those guys.
endorsed event. It's not an appropriate event to put our people in harm's way like this, Ryan.
That's
Are
our
there
show for this
scorpions?
week,
Just
folks.
making there's scorpions. People, so
There's
okay,
scorpions,
sorry,
right?
you need to stop, Ryan. Stop trying to close us out for 30 seconds. This motherfucker will take people out at 5 o'clock in
right.
the morning after the parties to go see the sunrise in the mountains, and everyone who makes it up loves it. I, who
'Cause it's
cannot
amazing.
be caught dead up
At
at 5
5
o'clock in the morning or walking up a fucking mountain, would like to tell people that they absolutely should not be doing this, but it's a difference of opinions at this point.
We'll see if you can get to 36 push-ups because I'm going to be videoing it.
Bro, not a chance. You can film me failing to make it past 10 probably at best, but we'll try.
All right, friends, that's our show for this week. Shout out to all the folks who deserve shout outs but didn't get it. We'll catch you next week.